No maid lasted with the millionaire's new wife. She had gone through 6 maids in just 2 months, and each one left with tears, complaints, or silence. The mansion, though filled with elegance, echoed with tension. Maxwell Royce, the millionaire, had recently remarried after the tragic passing of his first wife. His new wife, Vanessa, was younger, strikingly beautiful, and known for her sharp tongue and cold demeanor. People whispered that Maxwell was blinded by her beauty, unaware of the storm he had invited into his home. But deep down, even he knew something wasn't right. The maids left one by one. Some said they were yelled at. Others said they were insulted for the smallest things. One claimed Vanessa threw a wine glass at her head just because her soup wasn't hot enough. Maxwell tried to mediate, offered raises and bonuses, but nothing could keep them. The help agencies eventually refused to send anyone to the Royce estate. That's when the last agency made one final call to someone they rarely contacted, a woman named Lila. Lila was different. She didn't look like much on paper. A single mother in her 30s, with a soft voice and kind eyes. She had cleaned houses since she was 15. Most clients respected her, but some turned her away because of her skin color. Still, she worked with grace and strength. The agency warned her that the Royce job was cursed, but she accepted it with a calm nod. She needed the money for her daughter's school fees. When Lila arrived at the mansion, the butler looked at her with tired eyes, as if expecting her to run away within the hour. Maxwell greeted her personally, polite but clearly weary. He explained the expectations gently, almost apologetically. But Vanessa didn't even come down to meet her. Instead, she sent a list of rules through the butler. Layla looked over the paper and simply smiled. On her first day, Lila made no noise. She moved like water swift, quiet and calm. She scrubbed marble floors, dusted crystal chandeliers, and folded clothes with perfect corners. The staff watched her with curiosity. On the second day, she crossed paths with Vanessa. The woman barely looked at her before barking out an order about how the fruit should be arranged on the tray. Leela didn't flinch. She nodded once and did exactly what was asked. Not by the end of the week, Vanessa had thrown 3 tantrums. One was about a misplaced spoon. Another over the wrong flowers in the sitting room. Each time, Lila remained composed, even apologizing. Politely when it wasn't her fault. The chef whispered to her once, asking why she didn't just quit like the rest. Lila smiled and said some storms don't deserve to be fought with fire. Then something strange started to happen. Vanessa began watching her. Not yelling, not screaming, just watching. One morning, she stood silently at the staircase, staring as Lila polished the grand piano. The next day, she followed her into the kitchen and criticized the way she cut vegetables, only to find herself silent as Lila corrected the cut perfectly. Leela noticed the stares, but never commented. She just kept doing her job, always kind, always steady. One afternoon, Lila was humming a tune while dusting the library. It was a soft, old gospel song her mother used to sing. Vanessa entered the room, intending to complain about the lighting, but she stopped at the door, frozen. That song, she hadn't heard it since childhood. It was her grandmother's favorite. Vanessa didn't say anything. She turned and left. That evening, Maxwell came home and asked Lila how her day had gone. She smiled and said, peacefully. He raised an eyebrow, but said nothing more. That night, Vanessa didn't scream about the soup being too salty. She barely touched it and went upstairs in silence. Over the next few days, the mansion began to change. Vanessa still gave orders, but her voice was softer. Once, she even asked Lila if she was tired. The staff was shocked. Leela replied that she was used to hard work, and Vanessa, for the first time, didn't walk away after hearing that. She lingered for a moment, then said thank you. One evening, as Lila was cleaning the upstairs hallway, she heard a muffled cry coming from behind the closed door of Vanessa's room. At first, she hesitated. Then she gently knocked and asked if everything was okay. There was silence. Then the door opened a crack, and Vanessa's face appeared, red-eyed and exhausted. Lila didn't ask what happened. She simply offered to make her a cup of tea. To her surprise, Vanessa nodded. In the kitchen, Lila brewed the tea quietly. Vanessa sat at the counter, not speaking for a while. Then she said, "You don't act like the others." Lila replied, "I'm not here to judge. Fight. I'm here to help, if I can." Vanessa looked at her for a long moment. Then she whispered, "Do you know what it's like to be hated for who you are?" Lila turned to her, eyes soft. "Yes," she said, "in more ways than I can count." That night, something cracked open in Vanessa. She talked more. She asked about Lila's daughter. She complimented her cooking. It was awkward at first, but it was real. The staff watched, wide-eyed, as Vanessa began smiling. Once, she even laughed a sound no one in the house had heard before. Maxwell noticed the shift immediately. One day, he pulled Lila aside and asked, "What did you do to her?" Lila shrugged and said, "I listened." Weeks passed. Lila became more than a maid. She became a quiet presence of peace in the house. Vanessa began going out less, choosing instead to spend hours in the garden, often sitting with Lila on a bench, sipping lemonade, and talking about nothing in particular. They were from different worlds, one wealthy and broken, the other poor, and strong, but somehow they connected. Vanessa admitted she'd grown up in a strict, loveless household. Her mother believed emotions were weakness. Her father left when she was a teenager. After marrying Maxwell, she felt judged and compared to his late wife, who everyone adored. She acted out of fear, not cruelty. Lila didn't excuse her behavior, but she understood it. Maxwell was amazed. One evening, he found Vanessa helping Lila carry laundry upstairs. When he offered to take over, Vanessa smiled and said, "She's not just a maid, Max. She's a healer." One Sunday morning, Lila brought her daughter to visit. Vanessa watched as the little girl ran into her mother's arms and laughed loudly. Something in her eyes softened even more. Later that day, she asked Lila what her daughter wanted to be when she grew up. "A doctor." Lila said, "If I can keep her in school." Vanessa didn't say anything then, but later that week, she handed Lila an envelope. Inside was a scholarship letter, fully paid tuition at a private academy. Lila was stunned. Her hands shook as she read it. Vanessa simply said, "I want her to have a future, like I never had." Tears welled in Lila's eyes, but she blinked them back. "Thank you," she whispered. Vanessa hugged her. That was the first time she'd hugged anyone in years. Then came the night when a fire alarm went off. Smoke filled the lower hall from an electrical short in the laundry room. Staff panicked. Lila didn't. She rushed through the smoke, wrapped a wet towel around her face, and guided 2 housekeepers out. Then she went back in and found Vanessa frozen near the stairs, coughing and scared. Lila carried her outside. Maxwell held them, both as fire trucks arrived. After that night, everything changed again. Lila was no longer staff. She was family. Maxwell made her head of estate affairs. Vanessa called her every day, even on holidays. And when Lila finally bought her own small house on the outskirts of the city, the Royces helped furnish it. She had done the impossible. Not with shouting or revenge, but with love. People still talk about her in the agency offices. The black maid who walked into the mansion. No one could survive and stayed. Changed it. Changed them, not by asking for anything, but by giving something no one else could. Understanding.